Hello everybody and welcome along to Silverstone in the centre of England for round 3 of the Hankook International Endurance Series. It's also the first round of the Touring Car Endurance Series, and we've got another 24-hour race here at this brilliant circuit for motor racing. I'm John Hindhaugh. The whole team is here. Let's get a flavour of what's going on, because qualifying is coming up next and it's all live right here.
So it's exciting down here in the pits. We're ready for Can
you hear me?
Thank you, Bruce. Bruce Jones and Joe Bradley in the pit lane for us this afternoon. Paul, you described this earlier on when we were talking about this as a traditional qualifying session, by which you meant...
You have an hour of the cars going round and round, and you set the fastest lap time that you can. You've put the cars in order of fastest lap time, and then you draw up the grid positions from that. Quite straightforward, really. I think for a lot of people, though, it's going to be all about just getting out there, making sure they're comfortable with the car, making sure that each driver is comfortable with it, that they know where the circuit goes. Of course, there's a lot of people who will be racing at Silverstone for the first time. And so all round, it's going to be an interesting session. It'll be the first time where we actually see them all running together. And one of the things that I like about this format of the 24 Hours at Silverstone is that they're all the same type of car. They're all touring cars. So although you don't get the massive speed differentials, which makes it quite spectacular sometimes, from the driver's point of view, it's a much more level playing field between all the different drivers of all the different cars.
And Johnny, the teams and drivers and entrants have really taken this to their heart, so much so that some of them prioritised this event above going to Mugello for the second round of the championship.
Yeah, and that was a decision almost forced upon them. I think from Creventic's point of view, they were given this weekend and this weekend alone at Silverstone. It was difficult to move it either way, just even maybe to give it 3 weeks between Mugello and here would have been better for some of the teams. That was practically impossible. But as an opener, as a first time for 2016, it was... their only choice, and great to get it on the calendar. It's the initial stages of the Touring Car Endurance Series. It's going to be a 3-round affair with further trips to the Slovakia Ring and to Meppen in Germany, but they do hope to have as many as 6 rounds to represent the Touring Car Endurance Series in 2017. So to continue Paul's analogy of great oak trees coming from small acorns earlier on in our broadcasts, there is a hope that this will really gather momentum heading into the 2017 season, John.
41 cars on the list here. We had 42. There was a little bit of an issue for one of the entrants this morning. We'll get a confirmation about whether that car is going to come out this afternoon. But qualifying is only a couple of moments away.
It's time to go qualifying for the first ever round of the Touring Car Endurance Series. We're here at Silverstone. I'm standing amidst more than 40 cars that are going out. This is touring car time at Silverstone. 4 drivers a car. The race will start tomorrow, but right now it's not just about setting a fast qualifying time. It's about, for a lot of these drivers, learning the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. So who better to hand over to than the commentators up in the box? John Hindhoff, Johnny Palmer and Paul Truswell.
Thank you, Bruce, and we've brought sound and vision together here for our international audience, also on 1602 AM here at Silverstone. It's overcast, it's chilly, not perfect weather, I would have thought, for qualifying. The good news is it's dry. It was very, very cold overnight here, to the point where there was frost on the cars this morning as we were coming in from all points. Paul Truswell was here overnight, in fact, and he was nice and cosy, tucked up in his motorhome. The sight of the saloon and sports touring cars going down the long hanger straight, warming themselves up. The variety that Paul Truswell has already alluded to is one of the things that always draws me back to the International Endurance Series, and the Touring Car Endurance Series, of which this is the inaugural event, has managed to hold on to that, albeit without the faster GT3 cars and the Porsche Cup cars. And there's a certain free sort of excitement, I think, down in the pit lane from these guys to be able to be the guys at the sharp end of the field and have the limelight.
Yeah, well, exactly, John. I mean, one of the things that was being said to me in the week leading up to this, when I was telling people where I was going and what I was doing this weekend, they said, well, you know, who's likely to win then? Who are the top runners? And you say there's this huge variety. We've got the BMWs, we've got the Seat Leons, we've got the Hondas, BMWs, big variety of different types of cars. But there's no kind of standout that you come to and say, oh, that's going to be the car to beat. I mean, yes, everybody knows Martin Short, and they'd like to see Martin Short up at the front end. But one of the things that Creventic seem to be able to do with this is they're not just able to give variety, but they're also able to make it a level playing field. And it is such a level playing field that it's a very open race, even to the point where this qualifying session is very open. Nobody's putting any bets on who's going to be quickest in this 1 hour session.
We'll hear from Johnny Palmer in a moment, who's hunched over the entry list.
Scrooge-like.
I was going to say that. I was going to say as Panther-like, as if to pounce on the and devour the information on the entry list. Let's head back down to the pit lane and Bruce Jones.
Well, I'm hunting people down. I've got Endaf Owens here, who has never done a 24-hour race before, but he's grabbed this opportunity with both hands. What are your thoughts going to the qualifying?
Not sure, really. It's obviously the first one we've ever done. New car. It's done a shakedown in Donington a few weeks ago. First time we've driven the car on slicks was this morning, and basically we just want to aim to try and finish. That's the aim, but we had a reasonable pace this morning in free practice.
But obviously with Creventic, they started the year out in Dubai with GT3 cars all the way down to touring cars. You think it's a good concept having this special series just for the touring cars?
I think it's good for people like us who've never done anything. The speeds are not ridiculously different, but a lot of my friends have done the 24 and they say the night stint with the GT cars is horrible. So it's a good starting place, and we've all been around the track before, so see how it goes.
But how about the team? Of course, you're assembling a group of people. It's a bigger team than normal for the 24 hours. Is that all new as well?
Well, basically we run a few classic minis, and they're all mates who run the team. Me and Carl, we raced in the Civic Cup last year together, and there's obviously 2 of us driving. We've got Rob Howard who drives Meagles, and Mark, another lad who's only literally done 2 club meetings.
Fantastic. We're going to watch your story with interest, and I'll save you doing it in Welsh. Thanks, Andy.
Josh.
Very good indeed. One of the first cars out, the Abbott Commercials team, Roll Centre Racing, the very easily recognisable BMW. This is run by Martin Short and the Roll Centre team over, well, actually not that far away from here, over at St Ives sort of area, in bright green and black. This is effectively, in everything but chassis number, this is an M3 GTR. It didn't come out of Stuttgart as that, but it was a proper M3 racing car, and it's been built to M3 GTR specification, and that car run by the redoubtable Martin Short and his organisation, and great to have them back this year. Some, I think, fair to say, fairly well experienced in motor racing. Martin Short, who, of course, for a very short time led Le Mans a few years ago in the prototype category.
And of course, Martin, John, is one of those people who knows how to do 24-hour racing.
That's a good point.
I mean, listening to Endaf there, you could tell that he didn't quite know what he'd let himself in for somehow. Whereas Martin will have loads and loads of different checklists that he knows that he has to refer to in order to do 24-hour racing, and that's the kind of thing that money can't buy you. It doesn't matter, where you put your money. The experience is everything.
And the 246 car that we were just talking about there, going very slowly at the moment, and that is not up to racing speed by any stretch of the imagination. Do we know who's in that car?
It's Richard Roberts in there at the moment.
You said you were going to do that, and you were right.
Yep.
Now, that has all four wheels and Hankook tyres pointing in the right direction. The 31 on the side of the car, by the way, if you can see that from trackside or from our streaming pictures, is where it is overall in the lineup, preventing one of the first series to go to the light system with the numbers on. We have got onboard cameras on the following cars. The number 1 Seat Leon of Memak Ogilvy Dual Racing, which is the car that we were just on board with for a moment there. Last year's series champions with the TCR category and the rather Paul Smith-alike livery on that car. Just heading through Maggots into the Beckett's complex now. Take the curb on the left, take a bit of curb on the right, down one gear, get your car ready for the left-hander. You can take the curb there, then a bit of more of a brake and down one more gear for the long right-handed centre part, and then you ping off through Chapel and head down on the Hanger Straight underneath the bridge. Looks quite sedate there, doesn't it, as they're heading down towards the braking point at Stowe's corner. Normally brake around about where the left-hand curb is. Don't try to get to the centre of the corner too early. And now the tricky downhill braking area for Vale, again, just a little bit before the right-hand curb there. Do not take too much curb on the inside because there's a huge sausage there, but you really monster the curb on the right-hand side, touring car style, and then exiting Club, you can use the red and white curbs, heading down towards what is the first corner, of course, of the Grand Prix. Now, this is really quick. Let's see if he goes down a gear there, just getting some heat in the tyre, and through Farm, and through towards Farm, rather, down through the gearbox again. 5 for third gear, and then it'll be the loop, which will be all the way down to, he's taking it in third, through Aintree, and heading out to the Wellington Straight underneath the crossover bridge, heading towards Brooklands. So our series champions, all the way up to 6th gear and all the way back down to 4th. Slightly late turn in, aim for the second of the bollards, but don't clip it. This area was resurfaced a little while ago as you come into Luffield, and even in the wet there's plenty of grip on the racing line there. Drift all the way out and through the final right-hand kink. You don't need to use the curb there. Kind of unsettle the curb across the line, and that then was a lap around in 2 minutes 30.655. And who was behind the wheel of that there?
It was Sami Moutran.
I think you're right, yes.
The car currently lying 4th in the TCR class, John. time to go for, as it were, to see just how hard they're pushing is probably the fastest time from the free practice session this morning. Bob Herber in the BMW, the JR Motorsport BMW from the SP Touring class, did a 2 minutes 18.3 this morning. All in the same car. Actually, it's not the same car, is it? I beg your pardon. It's number 127, which is the Team Blakemolen car, being driven by Sebastian Blakemolen, who was quickest in this morning's free practice session. Well, Sebastian is quickest in this session thus far, and he's done a 2 minutes 19.197, which is less than a second slower than the fastest time from this morning's free practice session. So every indication that Sebastian Blakemolen pushing on, going every bit, in fact going quicker than he went in this morning's free practice session in number 127. That's the fastest car overall and the fastest car in TCR class. And then in the SP Touring class, the fastest car there, second overall, is number 117. And the SP Touring class includes a variety of cars, but this one is a BMW 1 Series, a BMW it's a BMW 135 diesel, and it doesn't run in the diesel class, but it is a diesel engined car, and it's under 2 minutes 19.400 then to be second fastest. That's the Saxon Motorsport BMW 135D. And then third fastest is number 335, which is the Scangrip Racing BMW, which didn't go out in this morning's free practice session. This is an A3 class car from Scangrip for the driver at the moment, which is Frederick Nymark, in a car predominantly driven by Danes, but with Maurice O'Reilly from New Zealand completing the driver lineup in that car. So we've already had some pretty quick times. 2 cars down in the 2 minutes 19 already then, and the Scangrip BMW on 2:21.6.
Let's head down to the pit lane. Bruce Jones.
Bruce Jones is having a Danish moment. I'm with our good friends, Team K-Riser, Jan Engelbrecht. We know your Peugeot, the RCZ. We know you guys very well, but for some of you, you're learning about Silverstone.
Yeah, that's quite new for us, this circuit. So we're quite happy about it. The testing that we have done have run well. So yeah, we're glad.
Now, just having an exclusive touring car series, is that a step forward for you?
We have been running the 24 hours for a couple of years now. So we think this is, it could be. We don't know yet.
Now, just looking at it from a personal point of view, have you found your flow around Silverstone yet, around the Grand Prix circuit?
Yeah, I think I have. I think it's a fun circuit.
What's it going to be like at night in the dark this evening?
We don't know yet, because we don't know how dark it will be and how much of the circuit that will be lighted up. But normally there's no problem with that, I think.
Good, confident talk. Jan Engelbrecht, thank you.
A bit further down pit lane, Joe Bradley has some news about the ABBA Commercials Roll Centre BMW. Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. I wondered why we hadn't seen the name of Darren on that. I knew he was here. There's a couple of interesting things. I just want to quickly run through the rest of the onboards. We're on board with 136 at the moment, the Volkswagen Golf GTI. We've got the 112 Renault Clio, the 208 Team Ultron Peugeot, always a very competitive team. The 216 Modena Motorsports Clio Cup, and the red Camel Jordans 303 Seat Leon Cup Racer, and all of those guys will be competitive in class. Nice to see everybody's got out there, Johnny. It looks like everybody's taking advantage of the full hour.
Yes, hello everybody. This is my first chance to have a word about this session, and it's busy, isn't it? Lots of people taking the early opportunity to head out in this hour-long session. That is not something that would have been part of the script, though, to have fitted a brand new drive shaft to your Team ABBA with Roll Centre Racing BMW M3, and for it to go bang on the opening lap. So I hope that's not a sign of things to come for Darren Cox's weekend, and presumably, being Martin Short's team, they will have the relevant parts to fit to that car, but that will put them well and truly off schedule. There's the 303 car coming into its pit box. I wonder whether it was gliding to a halt there at the weighbridge, but no, that's the designated pit lane apron for the 303 team, the Red Camels with Jordans.nl sponsorship. Bright orange car, which has Rick Breukers, Ivo Breukers and Bert de Huys as the driver lineup. This is one of 7 TCR cars, and TCR doesn't necessarily mean you have to run a Seat Leon Cup racer, but in fact all 7 TCR cars in that class here this weekend are the Seat Leon Cup racer variety. So, Dutch team, very definitely, 3 Dutch drivers, and they are running in 8th position at the moment as far as the times are concerned, but that puts that car second within TCR. A solid bank of TCR cars, Paul Truswell, from 7th down to 11th, but not forgetting that the fastest car out there so far is also a TCR machine.
Yes, and getting quicker and quicker is Sebastian Blakemole. He's coming to the pits now, just as I was talking about how he was getting quicker and quicker. Getting down to 2 minutes 17.542 there on his most recent lap before his pit stop. But that car now in the pits, number 127, with Sebastian Blakemole, son of Michael Blakemole. And say that car really getting to grips with this session very early on indeed. Still the second fastest car is the Saxon Motorsport BMW, which is number 117, with at the wheel David Robinson at the moment. David Robinson, I think, used to be out in Porsches, but anyway, he's driving a BMW. And then third fastest at the moment is a Peugeot. So we've got Seat Leon in first place. Second fastest is a BMW. Third fastest is a Peugeot. It's car number 205, which is actually a 208 Peugeot, but it's a 208 GTI, 208 and 205, both 208 Peugeots, and that is currently being driven by Sébastien Dussolier, who's the driver of that car. So 2 minutes 20.157 is the time for Dussolier, and then the next one up is car number 102, the JR Motorsport BMW, that was quickest in the free practice session this morning, currently running in 4th fastest spot. But having had just over a quarter of an hour of the session, lots of the leading runners coming in for a pit stop to have a driver change or a chat or change of tyres.
Go, Joe.
Expect another car because it's got traces of paint, green paint. So we haven't had it coming together with a green car, have we? They're just checking the car over now. The front bumper's off. It looks like just hopefully superficial damage. Doesn't look like it's transferred through to the important bits, i.e. suspension and stuff. So just a bit of superficial work going in here. But it is vital time that we're soaking up here down here. It is qualifying after all, and you can hear that. That's the hammer being put to work in the background.
Thank you, Joe. Joe Bradley down there in the pit lane.
I love the sound of a, I don't know, £5 lump hammer or something.
Was that
used.
5? 7.5 maybe?
4 iron. Not sure. Anyway, the cable ties we need as well, please, before the end of this session being utilised. Now, good view of this complex section through Maggots and Beckett's, and the Seat in front of us gets it well and truly wrong. And the problem is, once you get that initial line through Beckett's wrong, that then sends you totally off marker for the rest of Beckett's and through Chapel as well. There to the right you could see the the South Circuit returning at Chapel Curve, and then it heads down Hangers Straight. That was the reason why there was a red and white curb right across the road, incidentally. We're on board a Clio from Modena Motorsports, but an example there of the TCR car getting it well and truly wrong into Maggots and Beckett's and out onto the grass. Thankfully for its driver, it wasn't a bigger moment. Going to go down to the pit lane now and speak to hear from Bruce Jones with a bit of news. Bruce?
I only bring you the fastest drivers, top of the timesheet, Sebastian Bleekemolen. Good to see you here. How's the circuit?
Yeah, it's a wonderful track, especially with these cars. So I really enjoyed the free practice and now qualifying. We're doing well at the moment.
The Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, it's a track you know well, but you've been coming here for quite a long time now, haven't you, Sebastian? Sorry to remind you.
Yeah, it was 2001 for the first time with FIA GT. We finished second then. And I raced here, I think, 2 or 3 years ago for the last time with Porsche Super Cup.
Well, what's the track condition at the moment? People seem to be behaving well. Is it good?
Yeah, the track is good. Only a lot of traffic, but I had a clear lap, so that's why I could do a fast time now.
How many drivers are going to go through the cycle in qualifying? All of your drivers, all 4?
We're not sure yet. We must see where we end up, and we're still making some changes on the car. So probably 3 of us will drive, and maybe 4 of us. We don't know yet.
And then, of course, you get night practice later.
Yeah, I never drove here in the dark, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you, Sebastian.
So there's the view of the main straight, and by the way, we are running from the Heritage pits this weekend. If you perhaps watch the World Endurance Championship on TV or right here at Silverstone, that's run from the International pit lane, which is the Buckinghamshire end of the circuit. But if you go a bit further back through history, this was always where Silverstone races were started from. And are we on board a slightly slow 208 Peugeot from Team Altran here?
I think it's going as fast as it can.
OK, fair enough. I wanted to give it as much respect as I could. Yeah, you're right. I thought the answer was going to be, as it came out of left field, is he going to go pit bound?
And I think that there may be some, Johnny, who pick you up on that comment about races always having started from here, because if you go right back to the 1948-49 Grand Prix, they were started after Abbey and before Woodcote, so Woodcote was the first corner.
Fantastic.
But
that's why you're here, because you were probably here that weekend.
No, I wasn't here that weekend, sadly. So this was the second place where they started the races at Silverstone, and now they're starting the Grand Prix races, at least, down after Club Corner and before Abbey. And one of the great things about Silverstone is the fact that it's managed to survive all these different upgrades and changes over the years in order to keep it up to date, and yet it still keeps a lot of that character of the original circuit, even if some bits of it are being used in different areas and have had extra bits of track made. There's a lot of the original circuit still being used in various shapes and forms. Altran Peugeot 208 still going very nicely indeed. And as I was saying earlier on, I mean, one of the beauties of this form of touring car endurance race is that the cars are roughly running all at the same speed, although overtaking still is an important aspect of it. But the actual closing distances nowhere near as great as they would be if we had GT cars involved in the race as well.
It is great to have the spotlight fully on the lesser classes, I suppose. I don't like using that phrase, but that's what they perhaps become known as at the Dubai 24 Hours, when we have a full-on GT3 race to concentrate on at that January event. Often these classes can be a little overshadowed, but it's great to have classes like A3 with... Now, I noted down how many cars we've got in each of these classes. It's 14 A3 cars, 11 Class A2 cars. There are a couple of Cup 1 machines here, which are for the BMW 235i Racing Cup BMW machines. 3 D1 cars, which are all diesels. That's what the D stands for. And the diesels have a firm advantage when these cars come to refuel. Slightly different refuelling takes place here at Silverstone compared to any other event held here, to my knowledge, and we'll talk about that in due course. There are 4 SP touring cars, and there are also 7 TCR machines. Now, that's one of the... You would think a TCR car, but it's a D1 machine, the 195 yellow and blue Seat, which is only going down the pit lane by manpower, Paul?
People power, not diesel power.
Yeah.
There are a couple of other diesel cars in the race, though, because not all of the diesel cars run in the diesel class, because we've got the BMW 135D, which is the 117 car, which actually runs in SP Touring class. So you do have to keep a little bit on top of which car is in. Meanwhile, happening whilst we were talking about those things, we have a new fastest lap of the race so far, of the session so far, I should say, and that is for Adam Jones at the wheel of the 144 RS Connect Seat Leon Copa, and that's done a 2 minute 16.295 now then, so 2 minutes 16.295 puts it a full second clear of Sebastian Bleekemolen's time at the wheel of his TCR class Seat Leon. Moving up into third place now is another Seat Leon, so we've got Seats in first, second and third places, because the 303 car of the Red Camel Jordans .NL team, driven by Bert de Huys, has gone up to third place with 217.794. So the top three, 144, 127 and 303. And then in fourth place only is the fastest of the SP touring class cars, which is the 135 BMW I was just talking about, Saxon Motorsport, car number 117, which was being driven by David Robinson, and I think his was the time of 2 minutes 18.296. But he's just been pushed down a further place there by Harry Hilders at the wheel of car number 125, another Seat Leon, this one a Cup Racer car running in the TCR class. So Harry Hilders up to fourth place ahead of the Saxon Motorsport BMW. And then back in sixth place only now is the 208 Peugeot, car number 205, run by Team Ultron with a 2 minutes 20.157. So those are the top places, as we've had just under half of the session now, 27 minutes coming up onto the clock, and 33 minutes therefore still to go. In the classes, in the TCR class, the overall leader is the fastest in TCR, that's the number 144 RS Connect Seat Leon. In class SP Touring, it's the 117 Saxon Motorsport BMW leading the way. In A3 is the Team Ultron Peugeot, which we've already talked about, car number 205. And then in A2 is car number 171, which is currently Jakob Christensen at the wheel of the Peugeot RCZ. That's the fastest car in class A2. The fastest Cup car is number 235, the Duvo Racing BMW.
Who's behind the wheel of the 112?
Somebody Stanko. Luigi Stanko.
Luigi Stanko has just taken a line through maggots and beckets that I haven't seen before. Which was
probably
interesting.
Not going to provide the quickest lap for Luigi's stint in this session. I was trying to work out from that shot whether he was on the right line and the car in front was entirely incorrect, or the other way around. But yes, it was Luigi who was way over the white line and trying to find a suitable position to rejoin. On board with Bert de Huys in the 303 bright orange Red Camels Seat. So this is the Seat Leon Cup racer from Class TCR, sharing the drive with Ivo and Rick Breukers.
Father and son combo.
Yeah. And there's the thumbs up, so he's listening to us.
Yeah, somebody's on 1602 on the AM band there around Silverstone, or somebody's got on the phone to him to tell him that he's on camera. This is Paul already has adopted this car because of its Dutch connections and bright orange rather. Colour scheme.
Kind of out of respect to Johan Cruyff as well, who was a bit of a hero when I was a bit younger.
Oh, mine too. Mine too.
We are of an age, aren't we, John?
Sadly, a lot of our heroes are no longer with us. I do think it was very classy that in the first friendly after Cruyff's death, that they had a minute's silence for the Belgian atrocities, and then at the 14th minute. They stopped the game and had a minute for Johan Cruyff, 14 being his most famous number. Barcelona still, of course, living off his legacy in terms of his managerial career, never mind his playing career. And did something, of course, that Sir Jackie Stewart's never had. Sir Jackie Stewart hasn't had a turn named after him, but Cruyff did.
A turn?
Yes, the Cruyff turn. Jackie Stewart hasn't got a turn named after him anywhere. Interestingly, one of the few racing drivers of his era who hasn't, and the only triple world champion, I think, that hasn't got a British corner named after him. Oddly. Into the pits for Breukers. Let's go down to the pit lane. Bruce Jones.
Well, I was interested to talk to a driver of one of the Toyota GT86s run by Rogue Motorsport. And Chris Valentine's popped out of the car to tell us all about it. How's it going?
It's fantastic. It's an absolute dream come true this weekend. I've done a couple of seasons in Brit car, so never really driven more than 50 minutes. So to go from that to a 24-hour race is asking quite a lot. We'll see how we do.
So what's your preparation, getting ready? Have you been depriving yourself of sleep for weeks?
I've certainly been depriving myself of cake just to get the weight down a bit, but yeah, I eat healthily, I dance twice a week, I do yoga, so I count myself fit enough.
So how long have you been wanting to do a 24-hour race? Presumably since before you even started car racing.
That's absolutely right. I first met my great friend Callum Lockie on the grid here about 6 years ago. He was driving a Porsche 996 Cup, and I thought, this is for me, this is what I want to do. Yeah, it was downhill from there, really.
Yeah. But I'm sure it's going to be uphill from Silverstone. But are you planning to do the remaining couple of rounds of this 3-car inaugural touring car series?
There is an offer from a team I've raced with before to drive one of the brand new Porsche Cayman GT4s, which would be absolutely fantastic. That would be the icing on the 24-hour cake, I would say.
Right, you've obviously got the bug, got it badly. Welcome to the club.
Thank you very much.
That's Chris Valentine at Rogue Motorsport. Ooh.
Yeah, a couple of Rogue Motorsport Toyota GT86Rs here this weekend, and great to see them making the step up from, well, 750 Motor Club racing a good few years ago, racing Toyota MR2s in their various iterations, and as Chris said there, done some Brit car in the past as well, but this is his first 24-hour race, so a little bit of training necessary, and also just to get the weight slimmed down a little bit to make sure that the fitness is there and the longevity, the stamina across the 24 hours. Guillaume Romain we're on board with now, the 208 driver. It's a Peugeot 208, so very simple numbering system. There are two Peugeot 208s here this weekend in Class A3, the other one numbered 205, and this car is in 9th position. And that's an overall position, by the way. It's third in Class A3, but the illuminated red or orange number on the side of the cars that you will see changing through the course of qualifying and through the course of the race, that tells you where each individual car is in the overall standings. And Guillaume Romain about to head over the line to complete another time right up his tailpipe. So he has a white Seat Leon, that's the treble one car of Track Club, which is an A3 car. So again, we've got Seat Leons in Class A3, in TCR, and some in D1 as well. So whenever you see a Seat, don't assume that it's going to be in a particular class.
And even the wheel arch styling doesn't give it away, as you were mentioning before, with that diesel car that has the effect, what looks effectively like the TCR body kit on the car.
Yeah.
Paul, I think you were here. Johnny, were you here for the British Touring Car event in the darkness at Silverstone?
I wasn't here for that, no.
Were you here for that?
No, I was at Snetterton in the dark British touring car race, but I was never here.
That was I think that was the ABBA Commercials Roll Centre car at the side of the road at turn 7, which is the exit to Stowe Corner. Yes, it was. For a moment I thought it was facing in the wrong direction, so it's not been a great start with a drive shaft having failed on the outlap of this immaculately prepared BMW M3 V8, and now by the side of the road
on the approach to Stowe.
Yes, it is. It's on the entrance to Stowe. Sorry, I thought it was on the exit when I first saw the pictures. That's on driver's right.
It was the second fastest car in the free practice session this morning, John, so we know it can be quick, but at the moment they seem to have drive problems on the Roll Centre BMW.
Now, unlike other endurance and sports car racing, it is very much the order of the day here in practice qualifying and indeed in the race. Normally outside assistance would get you thrown out. It is not only allowed, but it's veritably encouraged here. That car will be recovered, or at least tried to be pulled back to the pit lane whilst that car is in strife. News from Bruce Jones of a problem for one of our camera cars, the Modena Racing Machine, as we go code 60 here. We'll talk about that in a moment. Bruce, what have you got?
Well, it's an unusual one. We know in this form of racing, Creventic absolutely encourage it. It's a family enterprise and people share things, but 216 and 217, the two Modena Motorsports Clios behind me, are sharing an exhaust. It's just been taken off the car in front. Francis Gia's just got out and it's being put in the white one at the back, 217. So this code 60 helps a little bit, but it's busy down here.
Okay, I hope there's a plan later on in the weekend to have separate parts for both cars.
Well, let's hope so.
Yes,
you do the night stint. You have the exhaust for the night.
I just wonder whether it's a problem with the noise, because the way that the regulations are written, it's very, very strict indeed on noise limits. 102 dB is the limit, but they're also concerned about the way that those limits are, or the way that the exhaust is actually created. They don't want to have temporary baffling put in the exhaust. They want it to have a proper exhaust. And they also don't want to have any of these noisy pit lane speed limiters, which sometimes work by cutting the engine, and that causes a little explosion. So a special additional regulation has been written into the supplementary regs for this race because of the sensitivity of the noise issue. And we did already have a mention on the screen of a car that was over its noise limit, and rather than just being a warning, allowed to carry on, as soon as they detect the noise is too high, black flag into the pits. It has to be fixed before the car can go out again.
Now, code 60, if you are not familiar with that, is fairly self-explanatory. 60 is 60 kilometres an hour, and everyone is restricted to circulating at that speed. No safety car is deployed. Everyone gets down to the speed and is monitored by the GPS tracking as well, of course. You divide the circuit in terms of its kilometerage. You can use that to work out at 60 kilometres an hour a target time for the lap. It's fairly easy arithmetic, so everyone knows how fast they can possibly go before they start getting penalised. And what this tends to do is to, during the race, if the race needs to be neutralised, the first thing is that it neutralises the race immediately. You don't have to wait for the safety car to be scrambled. You don't have to wait for the leader to come round. The second thing is that once the issue is cleared, as it has been now, we will go back to green very quickly indeed, because you don't have to do a wave by, a pass around, get the safety car back to the start line either.
And you go green throughout the whole circuit all at the same time, so you don't have to even wait until you get back to the start-finish line to get the green flag. You can go racing again as soon as you see a green flag when code 60 is removed, which we are told it will happen in less than 1 minute.
And we're told in less than a minute. It comes up on the screen, and then there's a countdown to everyone, and they are allowed to go racing. And the idea is, of course, that all of the marshals posts get the countdown as well, and you have two marshals, one with the code 60 flag hanging out, and then as we get to zero, the code 60 flag is removed and the green flag is put out instead.
3 minutes and 11 seconds was the period for that code 60, and that's a good demonstration of exactly what you're saying, John, because that's barely a lap at racing speeds that you've lost. And,
yes.
You know, if you're creating safety and costing barely a lap, then that's got to be a good way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't stop you needing to neutralise the race. Incidents will happen, and we've said this before, Paul, about that. Incidents will continue to happen, and people will continue to fall off the track and need to be helped back on it and point in the right direction. I just think it gets you back to racing so much quicker.
Yeah.
Anything else you say about it, I know it's not perfect. It isn't perfect. I don't think any system of neutralising the race is perfect. But the major advantage for me is that you don't have to wait to bunch the cars up. You don't have to wait to close the pits. The pits can stay open all the time. And the thing is that you don't have to wait for a safety car to get back to the start-finish line before you can go green again. No wave buys, etc.
The only time where luck can play its part there is if you get caught needing fuel at the very moment when there's a code 60, you are allowed into the pits, as John says, the pit lane remains open, but you're only allowed to put half a tank in. Now,
and that's a relatively new wrinkle on the code 60 rules here in Creventic racing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of... I can see why they've done it. It's very sensible because it discourages you from deliberately coming into the pits, but it does also penalise you from being able to get a full tank full of fuel if you're coming in under code 60. Of course, if it's a longer code 60 and you can actually get round and do 2 laps, there's nothing to stop you coming in on consecutive laps and getting half a tank of fuel on 2 occasions. So it does work, and I think broadly, as I say, it's as good a solution to whatever whatever you do in order to ensure safety, to neutralise the race. This is as good a solution as you can possibly get.
You say half a tank, it's half the fuel allowance, isn't it? Which
Correct.
isn't necessarily a tank. And interestingly, just written down now for me by Joe Bradley, is the fact that the GT86, the Toyota GT86R, in fact only carry 50-litre tanks, which is way less than their fuel allowance, I think, as in how much you could theoretically put in the car should
absolutely.
the tank be big enough. So that's being compromised every time they come in for fuel, regardless of whether it's a code 60 or not.
What is their fuel allowance, though?
It just makes me laugh. It makes me wonder whether it's 100 litres, and in fact they're having to put half of that in every single time, regardless of whether it's a caution or not.
It probably doesn't affect that how far they can go that much in terms of they still go for a very, very long time, those cars.
True. What size engine does a GT86 have?
2 litre.
It's a 2 litre, normally aspirated. In which case they're allowed 100 litres. And if they've only got a 50-litre tank, then...
It does mean that they don't have any difference when code 60 comes out. They'll probably be able to fill it. They'll fill it every time they come in. It won't be a long stop at the pumps, will it?
No. And if they pitted in under code 60, they would only be able to put in 50 litres. That would be the limit. And it's a self-restricting limit anyway. Yeah.
It sounds a bit like my mate who bragged about getting really good fuel consumption since he'd started putting in only 10 quid's worth every time he stopped at the fuel station.
Yeah.
He said, I was getting only to put in 10 quid every time I stopped.
Joe Bradley writing furiously on Johnny's pad ahead of him. He's donned his team manager's hat and said, basically, every code 60, that GT86 might as well come in.
It might as well, but I've got a horrible feeling, it's not a horrible feeling, it's a very optimistic feeling that this race will run relatively free of code 60s.
I like that thought.
I don't think Silverstone is wide enough, it's open enough, you'll be able to deal with situations very quickly. Even if it is a code 60 like we've just had, as I said, it was only just over 3 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not worth coming into the pits. You might not even be able to get to the pits in the 3 minutes if you're going round at 5 minutes, which is the lap time under code 60. You might not actually get to the pit lane. It's gone green again.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you have to queue at the pumps, then you're really disadvantaged at that point. So yes, there's a little bit of jigging and poking to be done. So we have got 16 and a half minutes to go, and still it is the 144 car at the head of the field. This is the TCR Seat Leon Cup Racer, TCR class car.
Although we have a new second place car, don't we, John? Because the Rick Roykers 303 Seat has gone now second.
And it was Rick at the wheel who set that time. Yeah,
I think it was. Yes,
Rick, the young son of Ivo Breukers, with whom he shares the car. 139, the red and white Seat going right off the circuit at Stowe Corner is the Sub-Zero Wolf. Now that's a Leon Cup car, so that's an A3 class car. Again, just adding to the confusion of commentators and spectators alike. Let's head down to the pit lane where Bruce Jones is waiting.
Yeah, Bruce Jones has found one of his extended family, Adam Jones, right here. Going well. Number 1 on the side of the car, as well as your 144 number. So top of the charts at the moment.
Yeah, I'm really pleased. I mean, it's been such a lot to do in a short space of time. I mean, this is very much, us going racing and having a bit of fun. You know, this is what it's all about. We did a test with the car once. We've only owned the car about 4 weeks. We did a couple of days testing in Spain 2 weeks ago, and we've literally come here and pretty much out of the box. But that's it. It's such a great car to sort of... It's not a complicated bit of machinery like some of the cars that I've driven before, so we've got a good base setting, and I'm surprised I'm at the top, to be honest, but it's the first time I've been out on new tyres. It's the first time I've had any track time here in the car, and I can't say enough thanks to the team and to Lee Hodson, who owns the car, and it's been fantastic.
Well, it's a good thing you've done your qualifying, because we've just had a red flag. We'll find out why. But just looking ahead to the race, 4 of you going for 24 hours. Has everybody in the crew done a 24-hour race before? Have you done a 24-hour race?
I have. I've done a couple of 24-hour races. I've not finished all of them because they're always difficult.
If you add them up, do you get 24?
Yeah. If I've added them up, I've done a fair few. Then, but I did finish one here with the team next door, with Sub-Zero Wolf. We finished here a few years, about 4 or 5 years ago. But it's such a long time. You know, you're never near the end, and you just got to finish. And if you finish, you'll guarantee a result, but it's easier said than done. You've got to keep your nose clean, keep it on the black stuff. Weather plays a massive part, and obviously you need some luck on your side as well, but hopefully I'll be talking to you tomorrow and we've finished it.
I hope you will. But just going back to your car, the TCR class Seat, it's very popular, and not for no reason.
No, exactly. I mean, the Mark II version, the second version of the Seat line that they built, it's a great car. It still is a great car, and obviously they've produced this new one. And obviously with all the development they've done over the previous 2 shape cars they've had, Leons they've obviously put all their knowledge into one and see it make a fantastic car. And I think that's why it's so popular with the One-Make Championship, because it is such a good car that everyone can get on with. It's not an overly expensive car to run like some of your Porsches and your R8s and all the different GT cars. So I think that's the attraction. It's reliable, so that's the attraction.
Obviously the TCR class was built for a particular reason, but do you have to do much work to the cars to make them good for 24 hours?
Other than sort of fitting, it depends how they come. We bought this car from Hungary, and it was a sprint race car, so it's 1 year old. We've had to put the long-range fuel tank in it, and that's pretty much it. Obviously, other than the radio kit and the drinks bottle and things like that, it's pretty straightforward, and it doesn't take the maintenance and the expense of what I've been used to before with racing in Porsches and GTs. And I think that's why it's such a popular championship.
Well, it looks good. Well done. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Bruce. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot more of those TCR sets. The clock has been stopped because unusually we do have a red flag. Unusually in a Creventic situation, a Creventic meeting, and the reason is behind that flatbed on the far side of the circuit from us. That looked rather, Johnny, a Honda Civic-ish to me from the distant view that we had before the flatbed pulled up, and it also looked like the right front suspension wasn't suspending in the right way.
Beckett's, I think, isn't it?
Is it Beckett's?
The skid pan in the background is possibly a clue.
That's the Porsche Experience Centre, so that must be coming.
Yeah, it's coming out of Beckett's.
It's Maggots. Yeah.
No, I think it's between Beckett's and Chapel.
Oh, yes, okay. You're right. Yeah.
It's
the top end of the skid pan.
An unusual camera angle to peer over to there, but it is very easy to drop your car off to driver's left and into the gravel over there, and
you can just see under the truck that the right hand front wheel was not pointing in the right direction. And I do think that's a Civic.
It could either be the Synchro Motorsport Honda Civic Type R, therefore number 76. Or it's the FD2 Civic Type R.
You've not got your super duper timing up so that you could...
no.
Yeah, we've got two cars which haven't made it back to the pits, and they're both Honda Civics.
That's of course they are.
Okay.
Why wouldn't there be? Well, 76, the picture in the programme is of a black car.
All right.
Which that is not. What was the other number you mentioned?
168.
168. Unfortunately, not all. Is a white and blue car, and that is indeed 168.
And that's Endaf Owen's car.
Yes.
So Bruce put the
mockers on him.
Put the curse on Endaf, and there will no doubt be some.
Oh yeah, look at the front. As the front takes, the front right there was taking a little bit of weight as it goes onto the flatbed. It's just folding under. That's a suspension or a tie rod issue of some description.
It's Endaf who was driving the car, who we can see.
Pacing.
Yes.
Around the back of the car. I think he was having a look at the damage, Paul, while the car was airborne to see exactly what it is, and he'd be able to get back to the pits and say it's going to need a new this, that, and the other front corner. I think is front suspension. Very unusual to see this the being stopped, but you can see why. You can't possibly have a vehicle of that size and shape, even under code 60, so close to the racing surface.
The other difficulty is that the recovery vehicles are all kept on the inside of the circuit. There's
Correct.
nothing on the outside, although sometimes some meetings do employ a snatch vehicle enclosed away behind a barrier to drivers left just before the Beckett's section of the circuit. I'm not sure whether that's in operation this weekend. So to get the flatbed the right side of the track, you have to go red flag.
Yeah, and that is the only thing that might cause a few code 60s here, because of the fact that unlike places like, Dubai, Paul, you've got a lot of cut-throughs to get people back so they don't have to be towed. But already we're hearing it's 60 seconds to a restart.
Exactly, and once we've got the car away, then there's no barriers to be rebuilt. There's no tyre walls to be replaced. No catch fencing to be replaced. Just get on with the session. And to be honest, with the this being only a qualifying session, I see no harm at all in making the decision that was made there.
No, I think it was very wise.
Let's get the red flag and let's get everybody off the circuit. I think had it have been a race situation, it would have been perfectly well handled with a code 60. And again, it didn't really take very long, did it? I mean, we haven't lost very much at all. 10 minutes was the length of time that we were under red there.
Yeah, the only people who were disadvantaged was anyone who was on a quick one at the time the red came out, of course. And the clock was stopped at 15 minutes and 10 seconds. It's running again, already down to 14 and a half minutes. Live from Silverstone, 16:02 a.m. around the circuit and around the world on the Radio Show Limited network this weekend using radiolemans.com channel. 3 different channels, of course, available to you. Content from across in the States on imsa.com and RSL Extra for when the 2 principal channels are full. That will be rather quiet this weekend. But there's always something playing on imsa.com, or on IMSA Radio, excuse me. The moment, I believe it's a replay of the Sebring 12 hours, the Mobile One 12 hours of Sebring. That's a great sight, isn't it, to see these cars coming down Hanger Straight. Live in sound and vision, I should mention, if you have the bandwidth and you're near a computer or a device that is so equipped, then embedded at radiolemans.com or on the series website, we do have pictures. Slow-moving GC automobile. That's the 203 BMW shaped car. That is the Vortex V8, in the SP Touring class. And has that got a left front issue there? Has he brushed something, or is it no? That's just the Hankook markings on the side of the tyres. Mid-engine car, this. Looks like a BMW, but is effectively a space frame machine. And it isn't happy. It's not firing on all. In fact, I would suggest there's an electrical problem with that car, and that might not even have any fire at all, because the door numbering device there, Johnny, isn't illuminated, neither are any of the lights.
No, so maybe on some kind of starter mechanism he's managing to get locomotion, I don't know, but it's also being waggled from left to right, isn't it?
He hasn't, has he?
What?
They haven't not fueled it.
Could it be something as simple as that?
Oh dear.
The Vortex 10.2, as it's called, it's an SP Touring car. We saw some of those at Mugello in the SP3 class, I want to say. Formerly known as a GC automobile.
Oh, it is the same company,
I think it's effectively, yeah.
Right,
it's been renamed as Vortex. And Vortex V8 is the team that runs it, French squad, and the car is known as a Vortex 10.2. I wasn't sure whether the steering from left to right there was because of a suspension issue, or, as you say, trying to get some fuel into even maybe the reserve tanks. Parked up against the pit wall, the pit lane that we're not using this weekend, by the way. Now, that's a relatively safe place for it to be.
And with 11 and a half minutes left, that might not be going any further from that. It's just a question of whether the driver can get out safely, but he'd have to cross the track from there, which I don't think race control would like.
No.
Where is the nearest snatch vehicle, and how quickly could we get somebody to him? Going through the first corner at Copse, the 208 Ultran Peugeot GTI. Looking at a picture in the new for 2016 colour scheme of flat black and red, mirroring the special edition anniversary cars that Peugeot have been selling for road use. Not sure that was the colour combination I'd choose for my road car, if I'm honest, but you'd be able to find it in the car park, wouldn't you?
Everybody has their own taste in colour, John.
Oh no, indeed, yes.
Trying to go 3 abreast here at the end of the Hanger Straight and into Stowe, and the 208 Peugeot trying to overlap that BMW 120D.
I like that camera position that gives you a slight tails away shot through Stowe, and a bit lower than we normally see that there. You can really see the cars working, and you can also see just how steep it is there, Johnny, going down into the Vale, because quite often TV sort of flattens things out, but it is quite a downhill run there.
Yeah, this is the lowest point of the circuit, and then it climbs back up towards the start-finish line that we're using this weekend. Now the opportunity comes for the 208 driver to overtake the BMW 135D, I beg your pardon. So it's a diesel-powered car, but not in the diesel class, an SP Touring GTR. That's something you pointed out earlier on. Saxon Motorsport 117 car. So I'm now pleased I've seen that and can realise what it looks like and say, no, it's not a D1 car. Not a D1 car.
Saxon stalwarts of Creventic series and races in the past. They know how to get a car home. They've run all sorts of BMWs, including in the very top class, where I'm afraid is the Vortex V8, the 203 car, on the straight at the Grand Prix pits.
You have to say,
a bit of art there, nicely done. And the team, as perplexed as I'm sure as the driver is, that car isn't coming back, Paul.
Yes, you have to say, if they were going to stop the session or purple flag it, code 60 it, then they would have done so by now, wouldn't they? Because it's been there for, 2 or 3 laps, and no further action has been taken. As far as we know, the driver is still aboard.
Oh, well, that's the safest place for him in the moment.
In many ways, you're absolutely right.
And behind it is... Now, who is it? 2 or 3? That is... Jeremy Raymond.
The message is that car will be brought back to the pits at the end of the session. So the organisers happy for it to be left there. It's now been a couple of laps whilst it's been parked up against the pit wall. So everyone out in the session knows it's there.
It was on, the other thing the screen tells us there is it was on his out lap, so he'd just had the opportunity to fuel if that was the problem, and didn't take it. So
very odd one, that.
Whether it was that he missed the garage through which he has to drive and it was a pure error.
Yes, because you don't fuel at your pit, of course.
And you don't necessarily, you're expecting perhaps to go in at the end of the pit lane, but it's just before then. Anyway,
Phil Quiff dangling his right rear wheel to the point of it being completely stationary as Jeremy Raymond is out of the 203 car through one of the cutouts in the pit wall for the Grand Prix garages and being spoken to by the marshals. I think the marshals gave him a clue as to where he could get out there. The 205 Peugeot, which has at the moment who behind the wheel, Johnny? I'm finding it very difficult to see these screens.
I'm not sure 205 is on that.
Patrick Brochier. Patrick Brochier, number 205. The quick shot we had of Phil Quaife there, I think to celebrate the fact that he'd just gone more quickly in the number 1 Memac Ogilvy.
Up to 5th position now, yeah?
Well, he was up to 4th, but now he's been pushed back to 5th by number 102, Bob Herber, who was quickest in this morning's free practice session, who's now set a time quicker than he went this morning, but only good enough for 3rd fastest in the qualifying session, which has just a little bit under 7 minutes now to run, so really just 3, maybe that would be a maximum number of flying laps left. So Bob Herber, Rick Breukers, who we know is quick in the number 3:03 Red Camels Jordan Seat Leon, he's still going quickly there. He did a 2 minutes 17 on his previous lap, compared to a 2 minutes 16.7, which is his best lap. But still the quickest car of all is that RS Connect Seat Leon, which was the lap done by Adam Jones, and the car currently, though, in the hands of Jacob Hodgson, then currently doing the driving of the 144 RS Connect Seat Leon, the fastest car, and within about 5 minutes potentially will be the pole position car for the 2016 Silverstone 24 Hours first round of the Touring Car Endurance Series for 2016.
And should anyone better that time that the 144 car has set, then that car's not circulating right now in order to offer some sort of a reply.
Good point, yes.
But 0.471 of a second could be enough. We'll have to wait and see, but it's certainly the story of the TCR cars as the quickest at the moment.
Which I think was expected. In fact, I know was expected. The Creventic guys are pretty good, Paul, aren't they, at assessing performance and looking at performance data. They've had a couple of races, a couple of reasonably long races as well, with the TCR cars in the category this season, Dubai and Mugello, to be able to look at how their pace is as opposed to, or alongside the other touring car and sports saloon classes that they have. I think there was just a slight question mark about what the SP 2s and 3s, now called SP Touring in this race, what their performance capabilities might be.
Yes, the TCR handicap, if you will, is that it has to carry 1,180 kilos of weight, which is slightly heavier than it would normally run as a TCR race. The other thing is that they're not allowed to have ABS, which TCR racing is allowed, but they're not allowed to have ABS in this particular category of racing. So you're absolutely right. Just to echo what you were saying, the way that Creventic run it is to, as far as they can, even these things out. But I think part of evening it out was also trying to give the TCRs and the SP Touring a kind of special boost to put them at the kind of sharp end of the field ahead of the A3s, which were the other logical cars which would be up there at the front of the field. But it is very much SP Touring and TCR occupying, the top 8 places, with the fastest, top 7 places, sorry, the fastest A3 car is in 8th place.
No Porsches here, of course. The Porsche Cup class not eligible, thought to be a sports car, and therefore not invited to the touring car, the longer distance touring car events. And I think that's...
You wouldn't argue with that, would you?
No, I don't think so. I think that's absolutely right.
Yeah. I think most Porsche owners would not regard themselves as being owners of a saloon car.
No, well, unless you're a Panamera owner, of course. And yes, your backside does look big in that. The point is, a lot of people were saying, the times that those cars run, particularly the Cup class cars, it would make them quite interesting around here. But this is a particular series, a breakout series, if you will, for these type of cars. And whilst I have a particular affinity for Porsches, and I've certainly, that's what I would be doing was, I always said I would buy an old Cup car and go racing in a Cup car if the numbers came up on the lottery. It'd be I think certainly now a bit of a toss-up between it was a Porsche Cup car and one of these TCR Seats.
And the market is there now, isn't it? And the places to go racing is there. Echoes of the Wilhire. I think somebody said that in the week.
Very much so, yes.
The Wilhire 24 Hours back in the 80s used to be for production saloon cars. It wasn't even for modified saloons. It was for production saloon cars. Not quite showroom spec, but pretty much.
On Group N rather than Group A, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Those who have long memories, go and look that up.
Yes, in fact, I think I've... here we go.
You've got the Wilhire book there, have you? Oh, he's got the sticker.
I got the sticker from the 25 Hours.
When was that? 89?
89, which was in celebration of Wilhire's 25th anniversary, which is why they had a 25-hour race that year.
Brilliant. Very good, Paul. Very impressed.
Got the lap chart for it somewhere as well.
I suppose if anyone can be called the father of Radio Le Mans at the circuit, Harry Turner would certainly suit that epithet. I think Harry drove in at least one or two Wilhires. Not sure whether he drove the 25 Hours.
No, I think he did them when they were relay races, because originally it was a relay race. I think he did those.
But plenty. But Jeremy Shaw certainly drove in a Wilhire. Did he?
He was certainly top podium, I think.
Right. We'll have to pose that question when IMSA Radio fires back up again at Long Beach in a couple of weeks' time, as to just how far up the standings Jeremy Shaw got in and finished in the Wilhire. I seem to remember him telling me a story of being entered in something fairly tasty with some decent drivers.
Not to suggest it wasn't Jeremy's doing.
No, but a pucker entry was what I meant. There was a mixture of journalists and racing drivers from other categories as a PR operation for one manufacturer or another, and great fun. Is the checkered flag out, gents? I can't quite see from here. Bruce tells me yes.
Stand on tiptoe, John.
I've got vertigo. I don't like getting up that high. Checkered flag is out, and it was, I think, the Team Brit car that saw that first, with David Pittard at the wheel, the VW Golf, as the rest of the cars will come through. Now, Phil Quaife has gone through and is in fourth position for the last year's champion team, the Mehmet Ogilvy Dual Racing Seat Leon. So he will be he'll be no better rather than fourth position. The other cars ahead of him all still out on the track, though, I think, Paulo.
Yeah, I think Rick Breukers is worth looking out for.
Yes.
Also is Bob Herber, of course. Both of them still out on the track. I don't think Lee Hudson will be able to take the RS Connect Seat Leon any quicker than it's been already, but both Bob Herber and Rick Breukers quite capable of doing so in numbers 102 and 303 respectively. So they are about half a minute away. They're in the second sector, not quite come through into the third sector just yet, which starts just at the end of the Wellington Straight. We talk about sector times. The first sector goes up to the end of the Hanger Straight, or 3/4 of the way down the Hanger Straight, and the second sector goes up to about 2/3 of the way down the Wellington Straight. And then the final sector round to the finish line, which is not quite in the same place as the start line. We were talking about this earlier on, Johnny. The start line is a little bit further, closer to the gantry, where race timing will start. But both Rick Breukers has been through 2:16.973. He was just 2/10 slower than his best, so it was a very big effort from Rick. Wasn't able to improve on his time, though. Bob Herber in the BMW number 102, just waiting for him to come through at the start-finish line now, and that's not him.
Pit lane.
Has come into the pits. So Bob Herber deciding that there wasn't time in it. So pole position then for the RS Connect Seat Leon Super Copa, number 144. Driven by, at the end, Lee Hubson, but Adam Jones, the driver who set the time. 2 minutes 16.295 then for Adam Jones. Some half a second, just under half a second quicker than Rick Breukers in the Red Camel Jordan Seat Leon TCR cars. TCR cars first and second with a 2 minute 16.766, and then third fastest number 102, Bob Herber at the wheel of the JR Motorsport BMW M3, 2 minutes 17.243. The top three all within a second of each other. Fourth fastest, number 1, Phil Quaife at the wheel of the Mehmet Ogilvy Seat Leon. He did a 2 minutes 17.323. And then fifth fastest, although finishing the session in the pits, was car number 127, the Team Blakemolen Seat Leon Cup Racer, which Sebastian Blakemolen drove into fifth place there with a 2 minute 17.542, and then just rounding out the top six, sixth fastest, number 125, the NKPP Racing Seat Leon of the Baz Kurlan Racing team, which Harry Hilders set the time in that car, although at the end of the session it was being driven by Martin van der Berger. And so that's your top six. In terms of the classes, in Class A3, the fastest car there, number 71, Cor Oyser, in his BMW M3. Cor Oyser, perhaps one of the GT drivers that doesn't usually race in the touring car, but Cor's got a BMW M3 here at Silverstone this weekend. He was the fastest car in A3. Fastest BMW Cup car was the number 154 car of JJ Motorsport, the BMW, which is being driven by Mark Lemmer. Richard Abra driving it right at the end, and he was fastest in the BMW Cup class. Fastest in A2, car number 171, is the Team K-Greiser Peugeot, the RCZ, Jakob Christensen sharing with Jan Engelbrecht, Thomas Sorensen and Jens Mulgaard, and they were the fastest A2 car. And then the fastest car in Class D1, number 194, the Resi